I am so delighted to welcome one of the most brilliant women I know and one of the biggest hearts I know. Please help me welcome Rev Judy Morley.
Thank you. And thank you, Reverend Marty. Don't we love him? We love him. We love him. Marty is my brother from another mother here, so thank you. So as Marty alluded to, the title of my talk today is Use the Cosmic 2x4 to Hit a Home Run. So how many of you know what I mean when I say the Cosmic 2x4? Yeah, right. How many of you have ever been actually hit by one? Yeah, right. Right. For me, my personal Cosmic 2x4 came in 1998 when I was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the Cosmic 2x4 is that thing that comes at us when we least expect it, and it completely changes the trajectory of our lives. We think that we are clicking along just fine, beautifully, toward our goals and towards our intentions, and suddenly, bam, something hits us. Whether it's the diagnosis of a serious illness, as it was in my case, or whether it's the sudden end of a relationship, as many people frequently experience, whether it's the failing of a business or the sudden change of a job or career that you didn't plan, like fired or laid off or something. Any of these things are those Cosmic 2x4 moments. And sometimes we take those as signs that we should stop. Sometimes we let those thwart our forward momentum and let us curl up into a fetal position in the corner. But that's not what they're for. They're actually here for our greater good. The Cosmic 2x4 is a great gift. It is always a great gift. One of the things that I absolutely believe is that this power and presence that we call God or Spirit or whatever is a presence of good. Many teachers, including Emma Curtis Hopkins and Ernest Holmes, said there's good for you and you ought to have it, and that our good is our God. So that good that is in the universe is always trying to come to us. But sometimes it doesn't feel like that, especially when we have those Cosmic 2x4 moments. So instead of allowing them to stop us, we have to embrace them and recognize that the Cosmic 2x4 really allows us to create a bigger container with our life. So the first thing I want to say about the Cosmic 2x4 is that it is always a catalyst for change. Number one, it is always a catalyst for change. Any of you who've lived through a Cosmic 2x4 know that there's that choice point where you say, okay, I'm either going to just, drop out of life and, never leave the house again, or I'm going to figure out what this means to me and how I can use it to learn what I need to learn. And that's actually the way that I would advocate going, but I know many people who go the other way. So the change that we need comes because we say that we want something in our lives. We set an intention, we set a goal, but then we have this life that we've built that consists of all of our thoughts, all of our beliefs, all of our emotions, all of our relationships, and it creates a container. But as we grow and evolve, we outgrow that container. But we are sometimes reluctant to break out of that container. We want everything to still fit in that container. So we say we want this really big thing, but we don't want to leave the safety of what we've created. I call that, I want everything to be different, but I don't want anything to change. So what the Cosmic 2x4 does is as you set an intention and say, I want this, and you're still living in this confined container, the Cosmic 2x4 comes along and cracks open that container and breaks it apart. And it immediately feels like your life is falling apart because it is. But that's a good thing. It's because it breaks open that container to allow you to flourish into the life you said you wanted in the first place. So I have a story to tell about this with permission that it comes from my most recent ex-husband. And I know a thing or two about Cosmic 2x4s, okay? But he and I went through ministerial school together. And while we were in ministerial school, we got to that stage about 2.5 years into a 4-year program for us where we have to define our ministries. And so Sean sat down and he defined his ministry, and he had this big vision of his ministry, this big goal, and it was a stretch, and we both did visioning and prayer around it, and he knew this was a big stretch, and so he set it up, he intended it. We were reading our vision every morning. We were talking about how this was going to come to fruition. Within a few weeks, he went through a 5-week period where he wasn't just hit by a cosmic 2x4, he had a whole truckload of them dumped on him. In 5 weeks, he had 3 speeding tickets, a car accident. He had this interesting thing happen where his wallet and his cell phone were both stolen. He had done what many of us do. He went to see his practitioner, like a good ministerial student, and his practitioner had said, "You need to take a day off to go relax. Go to the park, go relax." So he did. He gets to the park, he lays down, he spreads out his blanket, he goes to lay back, and he sees some teenage boys off to the side, and there's something in his gut that says, "Ooh, you should move." But then, he's in the shade, and it's so nice. He doesn't. Lays down, and like most men, he carries his wallet in his back pocket, and he had his cell phone clipped to his belt, so it wasn't very comfortable. He took him out, he laid back, he set him right next to his head, fell asleep, woke up, they were gone. And then that's what happens when you listen to your practitioner. Really, now no. Just kidding. And then the oddest one is that he started getting nosebleeds. And these weren't just like little nosebleeds. These would last hours and hours. And they were just a mystery. They couldn't figure out. There was nothing medically they could figure out. There was nothing wrong. They just kept coming. And as he said, it's a great spiritual practice when all you have to do is sit there and wait to coagulate. But what was this about? What was this about? Is this a sign from the universe that Sean shouldn't be a minister? Did he set this big goal and now the universe is putting up roadblocks saying, no, you shouldn't go this way, no, you shouldn't go this way? Now, I know that I'm probably not the only one, so how many people have ever thought that way? Gosh, I said I wanted to do this and now it's getting hard, and so this is the universe telling me to stay small. Right? That's not what you think to yourself. We make all sorts of really creative rationalizations on that, but that's what happens. But that's not it. It's the universe saying, I want to support you to get to your goal. So in Sean's case, it's saying, I want to support you to get to that ministry you see. So here you have to heal your belief in rushing. Let me give you 3 speeding tickets. You have to heal the fact that you never listen to your intuition. Let me steal your wallet and cell phone to show you that you need to do that. You have to heal this, you have to heal this, you have to heal this. And so it is the universe supporting us to make the changes we need to make to get to that big goal. It's not there to stop us. It's there to bring us into that greater yet to be and to crack open that small container that we've outgrown. So the cosmic 2x4 is always a catalyst for change. Always. The second thing it is an opportunity to do emotional healing that we wouldn't do otherwise. So I have a kind of radical theory that everything in our life starts from an emotional basis. Whether it's a physical condition, a financial condition, a relational condition, anything in our life comes from an emotion. Now, science of mind, pure strict science of mind teaches that it's the thought, right? But even Ernest Holmes says it's not the thought, but the emotion back of it that does the work. So we have to have an emotional presence. But we aren't generally taught very effective ways of dealing with our emotions. As children, how many of you had your parents nurture you through really productive and supportive ways to handle your fear and your sadness and your anger? Okay, well, first service there was one. I don't think I see any out there this service. So, okay, I do see one. And that's not anything against our parents or authority figures. They're doing what they were taught and what their parents were taught before them. And it's just a cultural pattern we have. But the reality of it is that our emotions are things that need to be discharged within us. Emotions are energy. You can take biofeedback and find out that if you have an emotion, you are emitting an energetic wave. And by the law of attraction, you are then attracting that same wave back to you. Because we aren't taught really productive ways of how to handle them, we just stuff those emotions. We don't want to show them. And so things like, we're given messages, girls don't get angry, boys don't cry. My mom's personal favorite was, oh, that didn't hurt. Okay. Or whatever it is, I think there are some universals like some of the ones I mentioned, and then I think for every family of origin we have our own little quirks there that come up, but we're never taught how to really handle it. So we develop these coping mechanisms to survive to adulthood. And that's the way that we handle these emotions. I mean, my personal coping mechanism was perfectionism. I had to be perfect in order to survive in my family of origin. And you know what? That really did serve me in many ways, as Marty, exaggerated just a little bit. But I do have quite a few initials behind my name. I have 2 master's degrees, a PhD. I am the highest level of leadership at my organization, et cetera, et cetera. And that's an unhealthy coping mechanism of perfectionism, right? But how do we know this? How do we know that this is out there? We don't know it's out there until we have a reason to identify it, because these coping mechanisms work really, really well for us until they don't. And we don't recognize when we cross that threshold of them working really, really well for us and then them stopping to work for us. When I would counsel with people, when I had a pretty thriving practitioner practice, when I would counsel with people, they'd come in and they'd say, I'm having a problem with my husband, and I'm doing this thing, and I don't know why it's not working, because I did it that way with my mother, and I did it that way with my father, and I did it that way with my first husband, and my second husband, and my third husband, and I don't know why it's not working with my 5th husband, And, I would say that it didn't really work with your first husband, or else you wouldn't have had the second husband and the third husband, et cetera. But we do it because we don't know anything different. But that emotional energy is something that we have to transform. We have to learn how to get in touch with our emotions and discharge that energy in appropriate and healthy ways, or else it just lives inside of us. With apologies to Albert Einstein, I like to use the analogy of his theory of relativity. So, of course, we all know the theory of relativity, E equals mc squared, right? So what that stands for, the E is energy, and the m is mass, and the c squared is the speed of light squared. So it's energy equals mass times a constant. So those emotions are energy, and we all know that. You've ever had someone push your button? It's like a floodgate opens up and that energy just comes out, right? So you know that feeling. Well, if we don't allow that energy to come out of us in a healthy way and dissipate, it just stays stuck in there in a block and it becomes a mass. Now, I know that's not what Albert Einstein meant when he developed the theory of relativity. But as a cancer survivor, it's really an apt analogy that without that emotional energy coming out of us, it stays blocked. And in my case, it was cancer, but how many of you sometimes feel like you're just stuck when it comes to money, or stuck when it comes to a job, or stuck when it comes to finding a relationship? That's that emotional block that's there. It's just dead emotional energy. Why don't we do anything about it? Well, we don't really have to. It's not bad until the cosmic 2x4 hits you. And then it's the catalyst to go there. Because frankly, doing that emotional healing is icky. We've spent our whole lives trying to feel good, and that feels really bad to go back and dig that up. We don't want to go look at that. We don't want to deal with the past. I've done all that. How many of you have ever said this? I've already forgiven my mother, brother, sister, father, whatever. I've already done that. I've already done all the forgiveness. I'm glad I was the only one who raised my hand there, by the way. We don't want to do that because, like I said, it feels stuck. But the cosmic 2x4 will come and bring that forward to you, and it'll keep coming. You'll keep getting cosmic 2x4s. You don't just get one. The universe has an infinite supply of 2x4s to whack you with until you do this. So you will be able to do that work and unstick that emotional energy so that then you can move forward in your life. And then the third thing that it does, that the cosmic 2x4 will do, is it will broaden our perspective. It will broaden our perspective. So is the world flat or is the world round? It depends on your perspective. If you're building an apartment building, you're going to bring in all sorts of heavy equipment to make sure that the earth is totally flat. You have to make sure that it's flat. It's got to be completely flat so that you can build that building on it. If you're at the International Space Station, it's round. So when we're hit by the cosmic 2x4, our initial thought is to look at the immediate small s self that sees only the flat world. This is what's right in front of me, and this is the finite condition that I have to deal with. as you walk through the process of the cosmic 2x4, you get to broaden your perspective, go up to the International Space Station, and see that there's a bigger picture there that you're being called to see, a bigger lens through which to see it. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, it was in 1998, and I had found a lump in my neck, and I went to the doctor, kept going to see what that was. And at first, it took us a very long time to diagnose. We couldn't figure out what it was. The lump would go up and down in size. My blood tests, one week they'd be fine, the next week they'd be out of whack. The symptoms, I'd have symptoms one week and then they'd go away. And so the doctors were like, oh, it's going away. The lump's smaller, your symptoms are better, your blood tests are more in alignment, great. And then 3 weeks would go by and then the lump would be big again and I'd have symptoms, et cetera, et cetera. And so it took us from January until June to finally diagnose. So when we finally diagnosed that I have lymphoma, I thought, well, it's so hard to diagnose. I've got to be in an early stage, and I'm the queen of WebMD. So I got online to, look up what this means. And stage 1 lymphoma has a 97% survival rate. And so I'm thinking, and I even joked to that current husband at that time. I said, I said, the only way I can die from this is if I get hit by a bus on the way to the hospital. 97% survival rate. This is nothing. But then we went through the staging process, and one thing after another, we found out that I was in stage 4 out of 4. And so suddenly this wasn't as funny. I would like to say that I had a very Zen-like broad perspective at that moment, but I did not. I did not. I was incredibly devastated. I was angry. I was just frightened. I was hurt. I felt betrayed by God, by everyone. I was cursing everything in my life, every condition in my life. And I found no good in this. I should mention at the time I was a vegetarian marathon runner. So I had done all sorts of things to keep my body in great health. And here I am diagnosed not with a little illness. How do you have a little cancer? I don't know. But I had big cancer, like the kind that's going to kill you, And I remember asking my doctor, what are my odds? For some reason, this was going to make me feel better. I want to know my odds. What are my odds? What are my odds? I kept asking him, and he kept hedging. Well, you're young. You're in good health. You're the healthiest cancer patient I have, So he kept hedging on this, and he wouldn't tell me. And finally, after I browbeat him long enough, he said, 50-50. I went, oh, well, okay. Well, I've never been in the lower half of my class in anything in my life, so I can do this. What I found out later, 5 years later, I went to the doctor when I was declared in remission. I went for my final, thing, and he said, I've always felt bad about this. I have to make a confession that I lied to you. And I said, you did? And he said, well, you were just after me. You're so annoying. You were like, what are my odds? And you just wouldn't leave me alone. He said, so the way I looked at it is you would live or you would die. And to me, that was 50-50, and so that's what I told you. He said, but statistically, only between 20 and 25% of people with stage 4 lymphoma make it. So when I got the 50-50 diagnosis, I pulled out all the stops. I started chemotherapy, but I also started counseling with a minister on the principles of science-mind and the mind-body connection, and using these principles to heal this condition in my body. I did half the amount of chemotherapy, and I never did the bone marrow transplant that was part of the regimen. And of course, I'm 16 years later now, and I'm still cancer-free. So it worked. Thank you. But in those early days, I was so frightened, and so my perspective was this big, and all I could see was what was right in front of me, which was the pain and the hurt and the fear. At some point, I got to a place where I could see a bigger picture. I got to a place where I recognized that I was suffering because I had a resistance to wellness. I had been living my life out of alignment with that higher power and presence. I'd been living my life out of alignment with who I was meant to be. And I just relaxed into it, and I let go, and I surrendered to that greater power, and I said, you know what, I don't care. I was so tired of the pain and so tired of the treatment. And I had a chart on my wall of how many, I hate needles, I'm scared to death of them. So I had a chart on my wall of how many needle pokes I would have to have over the course of my treatment. And people thought that was being negative. But that's how I coped with it, is that every time I could, if I could wrap my head around 287 needle pokes, then every time I had one, I could cross it off. Okay, 286, 285, 200. So I was just tired of it all. And so I remember sitting in a rocking chair. I had no hair. I had no eyebrows. I had no eyelashes. I still had to shave my legs. It was just, and so I just remember sitting there, and I finally gave up. I give. God, whatever you want to do here. If I stay, I stay. And if I go, I go. But I really got that I was part of a larger life, that I was part of a larger life force and presence, that I was one with something much greater than I was, and that the pain I was going through was because I was resisting seeing that bigger perspective. I was resisting recognizing that this was a gift to me because now I could understand the emotional patterns that had been holding me back, and I could understand what I had been trying to do through effort when I should have just let go and allowed Spirit to do it. I could understand all of that. And so I really made peace with either staying or going, and I had the perspective, if I stayed, of what I was going to do differently. 4 days later, I had a CAT scan, and there was no evidence of disease. And it was an amazing healing. So that's what these cosmic 2x4s are asking us to do. They aren't roadblocks that some fickle God is putting in our way to try to get us to coerce us into doing what this scary guy with the beard in the sky thinks we should do. There are ways that we can open up and get out of our own way. Reverend Marty said it earlier about the book he's writing, get out of our own way. So the cosmic 2x4 is that opportunity for us to recognize that God is always good, all the time. And that the good that's out there for each one of us, the only thing between it and us is us. And the way we know how to remove those roadblocks is the cosmic 2x4. And so even as we are efforting and arguing, how many of you ever argued against your good? You've argued for your limitations, we love doing that. But even as we're doing that, there is this thing that is bringing us these adversities to clear the way for us to live the magnificent lives that we were meant to live. So the next time each of you are faced with a cosmic 2x4, or you know anyone that's been faced with a cosmic 2x4, or you fear the cosmic 2x4, just remember, it's always a catalyst for change. It will take you into a deeper level of emotional healing, and it will allow you it's begging you to get a broader perspective on life. So let's pray together. So in this beautiful and sacred stillness, I just open to recognizing that there is one life, one power, one presence, and that this power and presence is always good. It is conspiring for our good. It is calling us toward our good. It is sometimes shoving us toward our good, but it is always giving us greater and greater amounts of everything we could possibly desire. And so recognizing that this one life lives, moves, and has its being as me, I know the truth that this life lives, moves, and has its being as each and every person present here in this sanctuary. Each and every person present here on this planet. I know that God life is always calling us to greater good. It is always giving us exactly what we want. And it is bringing things that we might judge or label as adversity to us as a way to show us the path to experience and express our greater yet to be. And so I just accept on behalf of each and every person present here today that we move into the rest of our day, the rest of our week, and the rest of our lives, rooted in the knowledge of Spirit, rooted in that feeling tone that God is always with us. That still small voice in our heart is always whispering to us, "You are my beloved child, in whom I am well pleased. Come, allow me to give you life and give it to you more abundant." And so I just know that as we leave here today, we carry this knowing, we carry this confidence, we carry this spiritual authority into the rest of our day and week and lives. We become the presence of Spirit. We live from that place. We become a beacon to others to shine themselves. We are lights in the world. We live boldly. And for this, I am just so grateful. I give great thanks to that power and that presence. I give great thanks to God and to that law, which works on my words and makes them so even before I speak them. And so from this place of great gratitude, I just release. I let go. I know it's done. I proclaim that all is well. And I invite you to anchor that with me by saying, and so it is. Amen.